I used to think grief was the enemy. Whenever it would come knocking on my door, I'd slam it shut. I wouldn't go there. I wouldn't let it come in. And I never really stood face to face with it. But now I realize that grief is the one thing that connects me to everything and everyone. Because every time it comes, it strips another layer of the illusion away. The illusion of who I thought I was, the illusion of who I thought they were, the illusion of what I thought needed fixing in order for me to be happy. It's the one thing that dissolves the illusion of separateness. What if grief isn't here to break us, but to show us what we're still holding on to? I want to talk about what happens when grief stops being something you survive and starts being something you lean into consciously so that you can expand. When it stops being a story in the mind and truth just starts moving unapologetically and freely through your body and opening your heart as a result. Because that kind of grief changes the way you see everything. Your parents, the world, even the parts of yourself that you used to fight. My hope is that something in this video opens a softer understanding of what grief really is and what it has to offer us when we lean into it or open the door to it. It's not a wall or a hump to get over. It's a doorway to truth. I've been doing lots of really advanced, intense, deep healing work with my parents, living with them again at 28 years old. Our family ecosystem is very entrenched. There was a lot, a lot to uncover, a lot to grieve. Most of my life I spent identifying so much with this version of the story that protected myself as a victim of psychological and emotional abuse, and there is truth to that story. I didn't have the parenting that I needed. I'll never have the parenting that I needed from them, but it is also just a story, meaning that I've placed onto things that have happened. The more I grip the story, the less I have compassion for them and the less I have compassion for myself. It's possible to let them go, to let the story go, and to forgive them without abandoning myself. In fact, that's one of the most self-loving things you can do. To acknowledge someone else's story, to acknowledge someone else's pain, even if it contributed to yours. It also leads you to this place where you can start to meet them where they actually are and have more presence with what is. The other day, my dad's energy or inner child or soul or something came to me, and it was just this feeling of a frozen, terrified little boy. It was so visceral. We have access to this kind of compassion when we open our hearts up. It truly comes flooding in, and this is the grief. It's feeling that pain. And honestly, it's not just personal, it's collective. It's really no one's pain, it's just the pain. The grief of so many of us building walls around our hearts at the cost of connection, the cost of compassion for each other. And when we lose compassion for someone else, we stop seeing humanity in someone else, because everything is just a projection of our own relationship to ourselves, that comes right back at us. I feel like forgiveness is similar to confidence in that they're secondary. They're secondary to presence and acceptance and grief. You have to let yourself feel fully, which means you have to start with being present, truly present, not just going through the motions of your yoga and your journaling and your meditation or your walks or whatever it is, but like actually being with yourself, meeting the emotions as they arise without needing to label them or dissect them or speak for them or defend them, but just being with them. letting them move and speak for themselves, not guarding up against them. That's vulnerable as hell. So obviously that requires a certain level of regulation as well. A real profound connection to the breath and to your body and to the moment. The body needs to feel safe. And when you're regulated and you're truly present, that's when grief, when it knocks on the door, you often find that you can't shut it anymore. And when the door opens, you best bet the grief is pouring in. Everything you once understood conceptually starts to feel lived and embodied. You feel it. Your body is finally metabolizing it. I started saying about how my dad's frozen inner child came to me, terrified, and that's always been truth. There's always been a little frozen, terrified boy in his body, in his reactions, in the way he talks to me. Deep down, that's truth. It's not how I experienced it. It's not how the terrified little girl in me felt it, but that's how he felt it. That's a part of reality. And I feel for him. I actually feel deeply sad, because I know that his upbringing was very hard. The same thing is true for my mom and so many people on this planet. We truly are just deeply wounded and terrified children inside adult bodies. And when you remember that, and when we're regulated, we can find more compassion for others with that embodied awareness. In that sense, grief is truly the doorway to opening our hearts and connecting all of us, reminding us that there is no separation. We are all one. We're all experiencing a lot of the same pain, but they're just stories. Under everyone's defenses and armor is the same desire to be seen, to be heard, to be met, to be safe. And the more that you realize that and you metabolize it, the harder it is to believe that there really is a good or a bad. Because then you understand that everyone is shaped by their upbringing, everyone is shaped by their wounding. And when people talk about how love is at the center of everything or at the foundation of everything, I think this is what they're talking about. That at the core of perceived darkness or evil, there is love. There is something pure. When we strip down the stories and the ego and the fight for wrong or right or good or bad, there's pain. There's wound. Maybe sometimes an absence of light, but that's where healing comes in. Is bringing that awareness, bringing that compassion, that love, that light where it's needed. What if anger is grief's armor? Also, what are we really fighting when we're fighting each other? What if separation is just another way that grief hides itself? The more I open the door to grief, the less personal it feels and the more universal and collective it becomes. It stops feeling like mine. And then I feel more connected to truth and more connected to something bigger than myself. My ego feels dissolved. My sense of I am this person, this individual, becomes less significant or even real. And the more I feel like truly how they say you are just a drop of the ocean, a drop of water in the ocean, like the more I resonate more with being the ocean rather than the drop. What if peace isn't something we earn, but it's something we find when we stop resisting and we start just surrendering? What happens when you stop trying to understand your healing and you just start being? Feeling, opening, softening. Grief isn't the enemy. Grief is a doorway to experience life more fully and more deeply, and to connect each of us again, because we are connected, we are the same. And so much of our world has gotten to the place that it is because we've forgotten that. And it's time we remember. We're all fighting the same battles and we all want the same things. So grief isn't the thing I survive anymore. I don't slam the door in its face. I let it in fully because it keeps bringing me back to truth. It's stripping away the stories, the reflexes, the control. And what it leaves behind is clarity. And not mental, but lived. Real peace. Real love. Grief is the guide. I hope you dare to meet it and follow it and let it guide you. Let me know in the comments below, what is a time when grief has opened your heart up to deeper levels of awareness and truth and compassion for someone else, others, or yourself? I'd love to hear from you. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more content like this. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.